Click here to subscribe our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of our videos. Hello friends, good evening to all of you. I am back with another video on Sociology Optional subject for UPSC CSE means examination. In this video we are going to cover nation, state and citizenship. That's why it is part 1. In part 2 we are going to cover democracy, civil society and ideology under politics and society. So friend, please do this, share as much as possible so that more and more people will get benefited. Comment and like the video and ask any doubt if you have. And now you can also follow us on every page, that is facebook.com/unorthodox academy. So friend, as you know that we are covering slot 5, that is politics, Western Indian. In paper 1 we are presently covering topic 7, that is politics and society. We have already covered sociological theories of power, power elite, bureaucracy, pressure groups and political parties. And today we are going to cover nation, state and citizenship. So first we understand nation. So basically it is derived from Latin word nasci, which means to be born. Literally in terms of its origin, it means the group in which you are born. However, today the concept of a nation is understood at various levels. So if we consider culturally, a nation is a group of people bound together by a common language, religion, history and tradition. So in strict cultural terms, nation is a community which is culturally homogeneous. Various attributes like language, religion, customs and traditions are shared. But none of these definitions can explain the existing reality. For example, if we consider Pakistan, which has one religion, but it has more killings and violence when compared to India, which is a multicultural state. There is a saying that Her Majesty and English is the common language which keeps UK and USA separated. So same language is also not suitable attribute to be together. Various nations today are culturally heterogeneous. Total cultural homogeneity in terms of these attributes are rare to find. So nation is only one level of community. So politically, a nation is a group of people who are organized together as a political community state. As members of that political community, they share certain rights in common, essentially rights of citizenship. Psychologically, a nation is a group of people having a shared loyalty and deep sense of belongingness to each other. So they enjoy a vicarious sense of pride and attachment. So when it comes to social sciences, various approaches have been adopted for identifying national communities. The first one is the objective. So in terms of objective criteria, people have shared culture, a common territory and common history. In this view, nations are supposed to be real and tangible entities which are seen as embodying certain distinctive characteristics and political aspirations. So conceived in this way, nations are perceived as real, which can be identified in objective terms. But there are numerous problems with this definition. Particularly, this definition runs into trouble when we take example of Kurds. So Kurds are an ethnic group distributed in Iran, Iraq or Turkey. So in objective terms, there are in 3 different nations, but they don't identity with any of these nations. They conceive themselves as a separate nations. Even Sikhs in India believed to be a separate nation. People in Kashmir treat Indian army as an occupational army but not as a national army. Even take the example of Pashtun. Half of Pashtun are in Pakistan and half are in Afghanistan due to Durand Line. So they don't today form a nation of their own as they are in 2 different countries. Thousands of Pakistani Pashtuns volunteered to fight for Taliban against USA. So it shows a deep sense of belongingness exists between them. So objective criteria does not suit for definition of a nation. So now we see the second criteria, that is the subjective. So the another approach to study national communities is subjective criteria, and according to this approach, nations can only be conceived with reference to people subjective states. They say that it is the subjective state of belongingness, mutual identification and loyalty that forms the basis of national community. So when a majority of people in a community consider or behave as if they form one nation, that should be on the basis of identifying a nation. So according to this approach, a nation in sense is a psychological bond that joins people and differentiates it in the subconscious conviction of the members from other people in a vital way. This psychological bond is the most important basis of a nation according to subjective approach. In India, we feel proud of Tendulkar's, Bindra's achievement because we are psychologically bonded. But even this definition has a problem. There are nations which are ethnically diverse. USA has people from Asia, Spanish, Europeans, German, Catholic and Protestants, and they don't have a psychological bond. So they don't identify themselves with America. They are the melting pot nations. So now we see the third approach, which is the most recent, advocated by Ernest Jellner. According to him, neither are nation real entities nor they are psychological bonded. Members do have certain degree of attachment and belongingness without. So according to them, nations are imagined communities. It is manufactured or invented to fulfill a certain need. Nations are structural transformations brought about by modernization process, especially industrial capitalism. Industrial capitalism gave rise for new basis of belongingness. Earlier basis of belongingness was family, kinship, caste, and etc. Today it is broken by industrial capitalism. Due to this, there is a need for identifications. Along with this, there are also cultural needs like law and order, judiciaries, and etc. It is not totally unreal due to conditioning or indoctrination process. Mass media, political process, etc. tend to create a sense of belongingness. So another view was given by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and this advocates multiculturalism. He feels that nations are essentially political communities. Eric Hobbes Brown, agreeing with the Jellner, says that as far as cultural distinctness is concerned, nations are more an aspect of deliberate invention. He says belief in historical continuity and political purity argued by political parties is a myth. Jellner says that mass media and political socialization are reason for emergence of political communities. Anderson talked of multi-nation. As a political community, a nation is characterized by common basis of citizenship, and that identity of citizenship is more important than their ethnic identity. In this sense, third world societies are overwhelmingly political nations as they never develop organically. Even in case of India, it was politically united only in periods of Ashoka and Aurangzeb. But culturally it was very diverse. Shared history is very short. Political nations also in third world societies emerge due to anti-colonial struggle. So these political nations are characterized by multiculturalism. Loyalty is to constitution and law. Basis of citizenship is obedience to law rather the ethnic or the cultural groups. So now we see the second topic, that is the state. So basically the term state is commonly used as a synonym for nation, government, society or country. One of the prerequisites of state is the sovereign power, which implies supreme authority or the power. So Aristotle defined state as a union of families and village having for its end a perfect and self-sufficing life, which means happy and honorable life. According to MacIver, the state is an association which acting through law as promulgated by government endowed to this end with the coercive power maintains within a community territory demarcated universal external condition of social order. So Das and Chaudhary says that when a group of people are permanently settled on a defined territory and have government of their own, free from any kind of external control, they constitute a state and it has sovereign power upon its people. So basically state uses power as a mechanism to keep society bound together. The state is the agency which performs the political function in society and as such is a subsystem of the society. Greek philosopher has viewed the state as a natural and necessary institution coming out of the needs of human being as a political animal. Marxist has viewed the state as an instrument of exploitation in the hands of ruling class. Sociologists have defined the state as an association which legally maintains social order within community. The state has also been viewed as a society divided into government and subjects within the allotted physical area, a supremacy over all other institutions. So from the above definitions, certain essential properties of the state emerges such as population, territory, government and sovereignty. So now we see the views of Marx on state. So basically he has no fully developed theory on this but did discuss. So Marx traces the development of the state to the division of labor in the society, and according to him it becomes more and more complex and there arises some central organizing agency to control. So exercise power and authority for promoting the interests of the dominant class and suppressing and exploiting the weaker classes who are collectively called as proletariat. The superstructure of any form of society is affected by its infrastructure, that is the economic activities of the society. Marx distinguished 5 historical epochs in the development of humanity, each depicting its own characteristics and state. Those who owns means of production control the state he sees as a bourgeois designed to keep class antagonism in check. Thus 90,000 Athenians were able to control 4 lakh slaves. Marx believed the state to be a sort of conspiracy against the working class, or that the wealth of the bourgeois could be used to ensure that whoever is in power pursues its interest. So when the classless society is established and there is no suppressive function for the state, it would be required only to perform the economic function, and the state would wither away. So new Marxists like Antonio Gramsci and Louis Althusser influences post-Marxism to a great extent. According to Antonio Gramsci, in the modern condition it is the political party which forms the state, and he was an advocate of arbitrary theory of state. He emphasized that the degree to which domination of the ruling class is achieved not only by open coercion but it is also elicited by consent. He argued that the ideological and political superstructure are relatively autonomous of the superstructure. He talked of reciprocity between structure and superstructure. So now we see the views of Weber on state. So basically he suggests in politics as a vocation that state is a human community or a special kind of institution that claims the monopoly of legitimate use of physical force within a given territory. A monopoly of legitimate violence is therefore the practical expression of state sovereignty. And basically it has 4 defining characteristics of a state. The first, it has legal and administrative order. Then it has an administration which works as per legislative orders. It has binding authority over all its members. And it can use force that is legally prescribed and permitted. So legal, religious and political institutions and their interrelationship has decisive significance to economic structure and economic development, not vice versa as seen by Marx. So now we see the Durkheim view on state. So basically he discusses the nature and future of state in his work Professional Ethic and Civic Morals. His views on state are very much associated to his explanation of division of labor and types of solidarity. There was no politics or state existed in primitive society. As organic solidarity develops, power of state develops, so also the rights of the individuals. Durkheim makes a clear distinction between society and the state. Every society is despotic. For Durkheim, society is sui generis, and his notion of society dominated everything else. Society exists over and above the individual over whom it exercises an immense power. So basically we can broadly classify the state into different types. The first is the liberal democratic state. These kinds of states have constitutional limitations. Then we have second, that is the totalitarian state, and it is highly interventionist state. There is no limit on the state power. State can regulate every aspect of life. Mao in China prescribed of wearing a common olive green dress in whole of China. So the third state is the welfare state, and it is moderately interventionist state which tries to ensure equality to all. And the last one is the development state, and here state is interventionist where it is primarily concerned with the development. Now we see the third topic, that is the citizenship. So basically idea of citizenship today implies that members of a state are not mere subjects who have only duties to perform, rather they enjoy certain inalienable rights. So in medieval times, when there was a monarchical system, members of states were subjects, and as subjects, all those who stay in a territory are duty bound to obey, and they can't make any claims on a state. So now citizenship has been defined as the legal status of membership in a political community. Under Roman jurisprudence, citizenship came to mean someone free to act by law, free to ask and expect the law protection. This legal status signified a special attachment between the individual and the political community. In general, it entitled the citizenship to whatever prerogatives and responsibilities that were attached to memberships. So with the creation of the modern state, citizenship came to signify certain equality with regard to the rights and duties of membership in the community. The modern state began to administer citizenship. It determines who gets citizenship, what the associated benefits are, and what rights and privileges it entails. So as a legal status, citizenship has come to imply a unique, reciprocal and unmediated relationship between the individual and the political community. So basically, citizenship in short is nothing less than the right to have rights. So Thomas Humphrey Marshall made a systematic study of citizenship, and he identified civil, political and social rights. So first we see the civil rights. So those rights and duties that are derived from legal institutions are the civil rights. For example, right to equality before law, right to contract, right to property and etc. Now we see the second, that is the political rights. So rights of participation in political process, especially right to vote, right to contest for election etc. are the political rights. And the third one is the social rights, and these are rights to a minimal level of material beings. So these rights are linked to welfare state. So in USA there is right to welfare, unemployment allowances, old age pension and etc. and in the similar way in India too. So basically in recent times the concept of green citizenship is developing. It has come to be realized that natural resources are limited and many of them are non-renewable. These resources are not only for those citizens who are alive, but they also belong equally to our future generations for whom these resources should be protected. So some environmentalists have even gone to the extent saying that trees, animals and water bodies also should be given rights to avoid deforestation and pollution of water bodies. So right to safe and healthy environment is another right being added for those citizens who are alive. So another issue emerging today is due to globalization, there is a massive migration of population. So composition of population is becoming heterogeneous. Now human rights activists are fighting for assimilation of citizen rights into human rights. Any person by virtue of being a human should enjoy certain rights in any part of the world. And this is now a major issue under considerations. So thank you guys for listening and watching this video. Thank you.